My daughter was raising money to treat my terminal illness, even though I have no health problems. It started innocently enough, just little things here and there. My daughter, Lily, had always been responsible, so when she began getting more involved in school activities and community events, I didn't think much of it. She was on her phone more often, organizing things, speaking in hushed tones, and always seemed stressed. At first, I thought it was the typical pressures of being a teenager: school projects, exams, social life. I brushed it off, figuring she'd let me in on whatever was going on when she was ready. But over the last couple of months, her behavior had grown even stranger. She'd rush out of the house in the afternoons, saying she had meetings or fundraising events to attend. I admired her commitment to helping others and assumed it was related to a community service project at school. Still, something felt off. The shift in her mood was undeniable. She'd been distant, distracted, and sometimes appeared overwhelmed. I noticed how she avoided eye contact when I asked how her day had gone, giving vague answers before quickly changing the subject. It wasn't like her, but I chalked it up to teenage stress. One evening, though, I overheard a conversation that made my stomach drop. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. Lily was in the kitchen on the phone, and I had come in to grab a drink. I froze when I heard her whispering, her voice tight with excitement. "We're almost at our goal," she said quietly. "I really think we can raise enough money for the treatment. My mom's going to need it soon." I stood there, completely stunned. Treatment? What treatment? I wasn't sick, and as far as I knew, I had no health issues that required any kind of medical intervention. My heart raced as I tried to process what she could possibly be talking about. Was there some mistake? Was she confusing me with someone else? I went to bed that night with my mind racing. Questions swirled through my head. Had Lily misunderstood something? Was she worrying over nothing? Or was there something much bigger going on that I didn't know about? Whatever it was, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was very, very wrong. The next morning, I decided I needed answers. Something about Lily's behavior had been gnawing at me ever since I overheard that conversation. Checking her social media felt wrong, like I was crossing a line, but I couldn't ignore the gnawing worry any longer. If she was sharing things online, maybe I'd get a glimpse into what was going on in her head. What I found left me speechless. Lily had launched a full-blown fundraising campaign. There it was in front of me. Photos of us, smiling at family events, paired with heart-wrenching captions describing how her brave mom was battling a terminal illness. My eyes scanned the screen in disbelief as I saw the goal of the campaign: $50,000. People were donating. Friends, neighbors, even complete strangers had offered words of support, many leaving comments like, "Stay strong. You'll get through this," and "We're praying for your mom." My heart pounded in my chest. Terminal illness? Where had she gotten this idea? And how on earth had she managed to spin such an elaborate narrative without telling me? Post after post, she detailed my supposed condition, thanking people for their generosity and promising updates on my treatment. I felt a surge of emotions: disbelief, confusion, fear, and a hint of anger. How could she lie about something like this? How could she put this out into the world without talking to me first? But another question burned even brighter in my mind. Did she actually believe this? I sat back, trying to calm my racing thoughts. The Lily I knew wasn't a liar. She wasn't someone who would make up a story this wild just for attention or money. But what if she wasn't making it up in her head? What if she truly believed I was sick? Could she have found something that led her to this conclusion? A doctor's note? Misread medical records? I knew I had to confront her, but I needed to be careful. This wasn't just about correcting a misunderstanding. It was about finding out why she thought she had to do something this drastic. Taking a deep breath, I realized that whatever came next, it wouldn't be easy. That afternoon, I waited for Lily to come home from school, the weight of the discovery pressing down on me. I had to find out where all of this had come from, and fast. That night, when Lily came home, I could no longer contain the storm of emotions swirling inside me. She breezed in through the door, looking tired but excited, her phone glued to her hand as she talked animatedly about an upcoming fundraiser. I gently took the phone from her, my heart racing, and gestured for her to sit down at the kitchen table. "Lily, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The last thing I wanted was to scare her, but I couldn't ignore this any longer. She blinked, confused. "What's wrong?" she asked, her tone suddenly cautious. Without a word, I pulled out my phone and brought up the fundraising page she had created, the one where I was apparently fighting for my life. I placed the phone in front of her, the screen glaring in the dim light of the kitchen. "This," I said, my voice trembling with confusion and concern. "What is this, Lily?" Her reaction was immediate. Her face drained of all color, and she nervously glanced away, avoiding my eyes as if she had been caught in the act. I didn't want to tell you, because I thought you were hiding it from me," she mumbled, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hiding what?" I asked, my bewilderment growing by the second. "The papers," she said, her voice shaky, as if she were reliving something terrifying. "I found medical documents a few months ago. I know you've been sick, Mom. I found records, test results, and I knew you were hiding it because you didn't want me to worry." My mind raced. Papers? Medical documents? Nothing she said made sense. I wasn't sick. I didn't have any condition, let alone a terminal illness. But as I looked at her, I could see that her fear was real. She wasn't lying or fabricating the story for attention. She truly believed I was hiding a life-threatening illness from her. "Lily, listen to me," I said, reaching across the table to hold her trembling hands. "I'm not sick. I don't know what papers you found, but I'm perfectly healthy. I swear." Tears welled up in her eyes, and she shook her head, refusing to believe me.
"No, Mom."
"I saw the documents. I've been raising this money because I wanted to help you. I thought you didn't tell me because we couldn't afford the treatment. That's why I started the campaign." I felt a lump in my throat. "Lily, we need to figure this out. I'm not hiding anything from you. I'll show you my medical records if I have to. I promise you, I'm okay." The weight of the misunderstanding hit me hard. My daughter had spent months believing she was on the verge of losing me, and her desperation to help had driven her to launch this campaign. The realization of how deeply she had misunderstood the situation left me speechless. Now, I had to figure out what documents she had found, and how this all went so horribly wrong. "Lily, I'm not sick," I repeated softly, reaching out to hold her hand. "You must be mistaken." Tears welled up in her eyes as she shook her head. "Mom, you don't have to protect me. I saw the documents in the drawer. I know you've been going to the hospital, and I know it's serious. You don't have to hide it." Her words sent a chill down my spine, but suddenly, everything clicked into place. My mind flashed back to those papers she mentioned. A few years ago, my uncle, Lily's great-uncle, had lived with us for a while as I cared for him through his illness. He had been battling cancer, and I had handled all his medical affairs, filing away his test results, doctor's notes, and treatment records. When he passed, I kept some of the paperwork in a drawer and hadn't touched them since. "Oh, honey," I said, my voice thick with a mixture of relief and sadness. "Those papers, they aren't mine. They were from your great-uncle's illness. He was very sick, but that's not my health information. I kept the papers because I was handling his affairs. I'm not hiding anything from you. I promise." Lily's face crumpled, her bravado breaking down. She let out a sob, her whole body shaking as she collapsed into my arms. "But I thought you were hiding it from me. I didn't want to lose you. I just wanted to help," she cried, clutching onto me tightly. The weight of her fear and stress suddenly made sense. My heart broke at the thought of her carrying this burden for months, believing that she was on the verge of losing me. All this time, she had been working tirelessly to raise money, thinking I was dying and keeping it from her. I held her close, stroking her hair as she wept. "You don't have to go through this alone. I'm healthy. I'm not going anywhere," I whispered, my own tears threatening to fall. I wanted to shield her from the unnecessary fear she'd been living with, but I also couldn't believe how deeply she cared and how far she was willing to go for me. After a while, her sobs quieted down. "I'm so sorry," she mumbled through sniffles, pulling back slightly. "I didn't know. I didn't want you to be hurt, and I didn't know how else to help." "There's nothing to be sorry for," I said, wiping her tears. "You thought you were helping, and that shows how much you care. But now we know the truth. I'm okay, and we're going to be okay." But even as we sat there, both of us exhausted from the weight of the misunderstanding, I knew there was more work to be done. We needed to unwind this entire campaign, explain the situation to all the people who had donated, and find a way to set things right. And more importantly, I needed to make sure Lily understood that she could always come to me no matter what. We sat there in silence, the air thick with the weight of everything that had been left unsaid. Lily's quiet sobs broke the stillness, each one pulling at my heartstrings. I could feel her guilt, her shame, and the heavy burden she had been carrying for months. I wiped her tears as she finally managed to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she repeated, her hands trembling in her lap. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was so scared that you were sick, and I didn't know what else to do." Her words hit me hard, and I hugged her tighter, trying to hold back my own emotions. "You don't need to apologize, Lily. You were trying to help because you thought I needed it. You did it out of love, and that means more to me than you know. But I hurt people. I lied to everyone, our friends, neighbors, even strangers, just because I thought I had to. I didn't even ask you, and now I feel so stupid." She pulled away slightly, wiping her eyes. "How could I have let it go this far?" I sighed, knowing the difficult path that lay ahead. "It's not stupid. You were just scared, and you thought you were doing the right thing. But now, we need to fix this. We'll reach out to everyone, explain the situation, and make things right." She nodded, though her face was still heavy with guilt. What if they hate me for lying? What if they don't understand? I gave her a reassuring smile. "We'll explain everything together. People will understand, and those who don't, well, they weren't worth worrying about in the first place. What matters now is making sure they know the truth." For the rest of the night, we talked through the details of her campaign. Lily had raised a considerable amount of money, and I knew refunding the donations would be a process. But the bigger challenge was the emotional toll this had taken on her. I could see how much pressure she had been under, how the fear of losing me had consumed her. We talked about trust and communication, and how important it was for her to come to me with her worries, no matter how big or small. I wanted her to know that she didn't have to protect me by hiding her fears or acting on them alone. As her mother, it was my job to protect her, not the other way around. By the end of the night, Lily was exhausted, but I could see a small glimmer of relief in her eyes. We weren't done yet. There were still apologies to be made, people to contact, and donations to refund. But for the first time in months, the weight of misunderstanding had started to lift. We were moving forward, and that was all that mattered. The next morning, Lily and I sat down together, ready to face the fallout. She was anxious, dreading the idea of having to explain herself to everyone who had supported her campaign. But I assured her that this was the right thing to do. Mistakes happen, but taking responsibility and fixing them was what mattered most. We drafted a message to post publicly, explaining the entire situation. We carefully worded it, making sure people knew that it had been a misunderstanding and not a deliberate attempt to deceive anyone. We thanked everyone for their kindness and support and offered to refund any donations they had made. Hitting post was nerve-wracking for Lily, but it had to be done. At first, the responses were slow to come in. Lily sat nervously, refreshing the page every few minutes. Then the messages started pouring in, most of them supportive. People were relieved that I was healthy and praised Lily for her intentions, even though they acknowledged the confusion. Many said they understood why she had acted out of fear and love. But, as expected, there were a few harsh comments too. Some accused her of faking the illness for attention, and others demanded their money back immediately. Those words hit Lily hard, and I could see how much they hurt her. She kept her head down, reading and rereading the negative comments, letting them overshadow the good. I pulled her away from the screen and reminded her, "Lily, you can't control how people react. The important thing is that you did the right thing by coming clean. Most people understand, and those who don't, well, they were never going to, no matter what you said." She nodded, trying to keep herself together. "I just didn't expect people to be so angry. People are quick to judge, especially online. But you're taking responsibility, and that's what counts. We'll handle this together." We spent the rest of the day responding to messages and processing refunds for those who requested them. Lily's fear gradually shifted to relief as we worked through the process. There were tough moments, but for every harsh comment, there were 2 messages of kindness. People appreciated the honesty and were grateful for the clarification. By the end of the day, most of the donations had been refunded, and Lily was emotionally drained. Still, the burden she had carried for so long was starting to lift. It wasn't easy, but she was learning that mistakes didn't define her, how she responded to them did. The first few weeks after the misunderstanding unraveled were heavy for both Lily and me. The emotional toll of the entire situation weighed on us, but more than anything, I realized how deeply my daughter had been hurting alone. Lily had carried the burden of her fears for months, convinced that I was hiding something as serious as a terminal illness. Her guilt over what had happened was undeniable, but I knew this wasn't just about a few misplaced documents. This was about something much bigger, about trust and communication between us. One night, while we sat together on the couch, she opened up more than she had in a long time. "Mom, it wasn't just about thinking you were sick," Lily began, her voice quiet but steady. "I was scared you were pushing me away. You've been so busy lately, and I thought maybe you were keeping things from me, not just about your health, but about everything. It's like we've grown apart, and I didn't know how to handle it." Hearing her say that broke my heart. I had always assumed that our relationship was solid, that she felt comfortable coming to me with anything. But somewhere along the way, things had changed. I'd been caught up with work, life, and the usual adult distractions, and I hadn't realized how distant I'd become from her. "Lily, I'm sorry," I said softly. "I never meant to make you feel like that. I've been so caught up in everything else that I didn't notice you were feeling this way. You're the most important person in my life, and I don't want you to ever think that I'm hiding anything from you. We need to talk more about everything." She nodded, but I could still see the hesitation in her eyes. "I didn't want to upset you. I thought if I confronted you, it would make things worse, or that maybe you really were sick and you were just trying to protect me." I reached out and took her hand. "You never have to be afraid to ask me anything. I want us to talk, to trust each other like we used to. This whole situation, while it's been hard, has shown me that we've got work to do. But we'll figure it out together." The conversation left both of us feeling raw, but it was a start. We agreed to be more open with each other, to talk before jumping to conclusions. Lily had felt isolated in her fears, and I had been oblivious to how much I had distanced myself. The fact that she had gone so far as to organize a massive fundraising campaign without ever speaking to me about it was a wake-up call for both of us. Over the next few weeks, I made a conscious effort to spend more time with her. We had regular dinners together, went for walks, and even started watching a new show that we both enjoyed. Bit by bit, the tension between us began to ease. Lily was slowly starting to forgive herself for the misunderstanding, and I was learning to be more present in her life. Still, the public nature of the whole situation weighed heavily on her. Even though most people had been understanding, a few negative comments from peers lingered in her mind. I reassured her that people would forget about it soon enough, and more importantly, I reminded her that everyone makes mistakes. What mattered was that she owned up to it and took responsibility, something not everyone is brave enough to do. It wasn't easy, but the experience brought us closer. We learned that trust isn't just about not keeping secrets, it's about being open, even when it's uncomfortable. And while we still had a long way to go, the road ahead didn't seem quite as daunting anymore. We were on it together. After our heart-to-heart, the next big challenge was dealing with the public side of the situation. Lily's fundraiser had gained quite a bit of traction. Classmates, neighbors, and even people from our community had donated, shared the campaign, and offered their support. Now, we had to figure out how to address them without making things worse. "I feel so stupid," Lily confessed, her fingers nervously scrolling through the comments on the fundraising page. "People were so kind, and now I have to tell them that it was all a misunderstanding." "You're not stupid," I reassured her, placing my hand on hers. "You were trying to do something good, and we'll explain the truth. That's all we can do." We sat down together and wrote a heartfelt message to post on the fundraising page. We explained how a mix-up with old medical documents had led Lily to believe that I was seriously ill, and how she, in her love and concern, had started the campaign thinking she was helping. We thanked everyone for their generosity and support, and we assured them that all donations would be refunded. Lily was nervous about posting it. She was terrified that people would accuse her of lying or faking the entire thing for attention. But the truth needed to come out, and I reminded her that people who care will understand. The response was overwhelming, and in a way, healing for both of us. Instead of harsh words or judgment, we were met with kindness and understanding. People commented on the post saying that they admired Lily's dedication to her family, and some even said that in her position, they would have done the same thing. They praised her for having such a big heart, and a few even told her not to be too hard on herself. One of the most surprising responses came from a woman who ran a local charity. She reached out to Lily and offered her an opportunity to work on future fundraising events. "Your heart's in the right place," she said in her message. "We could really use people like you." Lily's face lit up when she read the message. It was the first time I had seen her genuinely smile since this whole ordeal began. Some donors even refused their refunds, suggesting that we put the funds toward a worthy cause instead. They understood that the campaign was born from a place of love and concern, and they didn't want Lily to feel guilty about what had happened. We decided to donate the remaining money to a local health foundation in honor of my late uncle, whose documents had sparked this entire situation. It felt surreal. This mess, born from a misunderstanding and panic, had turned into something positive. The experience had left a deep impact on both Lily and me, but it also showed us the power of community, forgiveness, and understanding. The hardest part was finally over, and the weight of that secret fear that Lily had been carrying was lifted. She no longer had to bear the burden of her misunderstanding alone, and we were beginning to mend the pieces of our relationship together. After we refunded the donations and closed the fundraiser, life gradually returned to normal. The chaos that had consumed our lives finally subsided, leaving us with a mix of relief and reflection. Though the situation had shaken us deeply, we eventually began to find humor in it. Sometimes, while we were having dinner or going for a drive, Lily would look at me with a mischievous smile and say, "So, Dad, feeling terminal today?" It became her way of lightening the mood and processing everything that had happened, and I let her. We both needed to laugh after the whirlwind we'd been through. But beyond the laughter, something had changed in our relationship. I noticed that Lily was more present, both physically and emotionally. She started spending more time with me, checking in regularly to ask how I was feeling or how my day had gone. It was clear that she wasn't just asking out of habit or politeness. She genuinely wanted to connect. One afternoon, after one of our usual walks, Lily sat me down at the kitchen table, her face serious but calm. "Dad, I've been thinking a lot about what happened," she began, her voice softer than usual. "I know what I did was over the top, but I think it made me realize something. I was so caught up in things that don't really matter. School drama, social media, trying to fit in with people I don't even care about that much. But when I thought you were sick, it just hit me how important family is." Her words caught me off guard. The whirlwind of the fundraiser had been one thing, but this was a reflection I hadn't anticipated. I nodded, letting her continue. "When I thought you were hiding something from me, it made me realize how much I don't actually know about you," she admitted. "We don't really talk like we used to. And I guess I didn't realize how much I care until I thought I was losing you." I swallowed hard, taken aback by her openness. It was as though the strange and confusing ordeal we had just gone through had forced her to confront something much deeper. She wasn't just talking about the misunderstanding. She was talking about us. Our relationship. Our connection. "And I want to change that," she added, her voice almost hesitant. "I want to know you better. I don't want to take things for granted anymore." I didn't know what to say at first. Here I was, having gone through the motions of fatherhood, thinking that being there meant providing, attending school events, being present at the dinner table. But Lily's words made me realize something I hadn't fully grasped. Being a parent wasn't just about showing up physically, it was about showing up emotionally too. I had assumed that Lily and I were fine because we didn't argue much, and things seemed smooth on the surface. But beneath that, she had been craving more from me, more depth, more vulnerability. "Lily," I said, my throat tightening with emotion, "I'm sorry if I haven't been as open with you as I should have been. I guess I've taken things for granted too. But I'm so proud of you. Proud of how you handled everything. You've got such a big heart, and I see now just how much you care. And you're right, we should be talking more. I want that too." We both sat there for a while, letting the weight of the moment sink in. There were no accusations, no blame, just an unspoken agreement that we were going to do better for each other. In that moment, I felt the gap between us begin to close. As tears welled up in her eyes, I could see the relief on her face. She wasn't the only one who felt like the air between us had shifted. I felt it too. For the first time in a long time, I didn't just see Lily as my daughter. I saw her as a young woman with her own feelings, struggles, and fears. And she wasn't just looking to me for answers. She was looking for a real connection. We hugged, both of us tearing up but also laughing a little at how heavy the conversation had gotten. "Dad," she said with a small smile, "I promise I won't start any more fundraisers without talking to you first." I chuckled. "Good call. Let's keep it that way." In that moment, it was clear that we had turned a corner. Our relationship had deepened, not because of the fundraiser debacle, but because we had finally learned how to open up to each other. It wasn't perfect, but it was a new beginning, one built on trust, understanding, and a newfound appreciation for what really mattered. With the chaos of the fundraiser finally behind us, life gradually returned to normal. But the shift in our relationship lingered, in the best possible way. Lily began to open up more than she ever had before, sharing pieces of her world that I hadn't realized she had been holding back. She told me about the pressures she faced with friends, her fears about the future, and the dreams she was hesitant to voice. It was like a new chapter for both of us, and I was determined not to let our connection slip away again. Inspired by the support and kindness that had come from the mistaken fundraiser, Lily decided to channel her energy into something more meaningful. This time, she wanted to do it right. She suggested organizing a new community event, this time fully transparent with a cause that had real meaning. Her idea was to raise money for children in need of medical care, a project that would help others who genuinely needed support. Watching her pour her heart into the new event, I saw a different side of Lily emerge. The fundraiser wasn't just about raising money, it was about learning how to give back in a way that was grounded in truth and intention. And this time, she was in full control of the narrative, doing things on her own terms. We worked on it together, something that strengthened the bond between us even more. I helped her with logistics, reaching out to local sponsors and organizing the event's details. Lily, on the other hand, took charge of the creative side, designing flyers, running the campaign, and reaching out to the community. The response was even better than we had hoped. People were more than willing to support a cause that was clear, honest, and deeply impactful. The night of the event, as we watched families, friends, and neighbors come together for a cause that mattered, I couldn't help but feel proud, not just of Lily's efforts, but of how much we had grown together through this experience. She had learned the balance between her big heart and the practical side of making a difference, and I had learned the importance of being more present in her life. As for me, I made a conscious decision to be more connected. No more letting work or other distractions pull me away from my role as a father. We set aside time for father-daughter dinners, weekend outings, and long talks that spanned everything from her school projects to her hopes for the future. We didn't just reconnect. We grew closer than ever before. Looking back on that strange chapter of our lives, I realized that the entire ordeal had been a blessing in disguise. The fundraiser had forced us to confront our misunderstandings, our lack of communication, and our fears. It showed me how deeply Lily cared and how misguided love can sometimes lead us to make wild decisions. But more than that, it reminded us both of the importance of being open, of checking in, and of never letting assumptions or fear get in the way of the truth. In the end, we emerged stronger. Our bond had been tested, but we had rebuilt it with understanding, respect, and the kind of love that's unshakable. Whatever comes next, I know we'll face it together. Hopefully with a lot more communication and maybe just a little less drama. As we packed up after the event, Lily turned to me with a smile. "Dad," she said, "I think we make a pretty good team." I smiled back, filled with pride and gratitude. "We always did, kiddo," I replied. "We just needed to figure it out." And in that moment, I knew we had.